Hey everybody, this is Joan with MTG Nexus, working on a little bit more historic content with some Boros Knights here. This list is loosely based off of Andrea Mangucci's list, as well as a few other assorted lists that popped up during the season, as well as my own experience with mono white aggro while it was in Standard, which was built around the core of History of Benalia, Benalish Marshal, and Venerated Loxodon. This version is taking a little bit different approach, but still has a lot of the same cards, sprinkling some of the knights such as Fervent Champion, Inspiring Veteran to pump up the jam, also using things like Conclave Tribunal to get problematic permanents out of the way, and then just game one trying to kill your opponent very quickly. You lose some utility in things like Dauntless Vanguard and such that were non-knights compared to that mono white deck, but you do gain things like Knight of Grace, which can't be targeted by black spells, and then Worthy Knight allows you to go wide. So although you don't have as many 1-drops as that version did, you do still have the ability to pump out a huge army, pump them up with Inspiring Veteran, Benalish Marshal, Venerated Loxodon, and kind of get your opponent in from there. 22 lands, ability to cast all your spells. These are the only 2 red cards in the main deck, so not a whole lot of red splash here. Sideboard, Baffling End for other small creature decks, Devout Decree for anything red or black, so basically if you're facing vampires or humans. Fry for blue-white control, Esper, etc. Gideon Blackblade for more controlling decks. Heroic Reinforcements, although you only have 8 red sources, you have a pretty good chance of finding that red source. By the time you need Heroic Reinforcements, this is kind of your way to close out the game against decks with sweepers, and then 2 more copies of Conclave Tribunal for decks that don't get hit by the removal here, or as additional removal in spots where you want to remove some of your creatures. So, let's get into a historic event. Back here for match number 1. Unfortunately, we're on the draw. We do have the triple 1-drop start and the potential other things, so I think this hand is fine. Try to beat down our opponent before they can. Looks like they might be a Nexus or Expansion Explosion deck. Kind of hard to tell. Lead on the Knight. Bant of some kind, huh? Alright. Hopefully we draw a land next turn. What does it to Fairy? Sure. Sure. Got Worthy Knight here. I could easily have a Wrath this turn. Sure. Come on, deck, give us a land. Interesting. Attack for 3. So honestly, it looks like if we had curved out, our opponent would have been very unlikely to be able to answer it. Let me get Shatter this guy. Hmm. Go spiral into things and stuff. I think there's a pretty good chance we're just too far behind here. Alright, as much as I want to sit here and watch the Nexus player master with themselves, I think I'm good. So, definitely want heroic reinforcements. Fry is tempting, but do we really want it in our deck? Question is, like, what cards are actively bad then? So, like, playing to the board isn't great, but it's what our deck does. Shoot one of those. Guess our best bet is just to ignore the reclamation and just kind of try to pound them into the ground. Can keep this hand. This hand's pretty decent. Question is, what do we put back here? It's a knight, so back veteran. Cannot beat a Wrath, not going to play around it. Sure. Do you have Shatter the Sky? Probably. All I can do is pump out 1/1s, I guess. Probably not going to be good enough in this spot. Sure. Yep. That's it for this match. Seems like we are infinitely vulnerable to sweepers here with this deck, so see how the next match goes. Back for match number 2 on the draw here. I think despite mis-sequencing my lands, I still would have played those spells in that particular order against the Bant Nexus deck, but yep, got them all, got them on lander. Seems reasonable, put back. Knight, I guess. Some vampires, possibly. Yep. It blocks. Let's run this guy out. Although we're losing a little bit of value off of Worthy Knight here. No blocks. Opponent's got to make a decision about leaving their lord on the battlefield. Really, I thought you would have just taken the rather easy trade there. Sure. Yep. Elephant. Elephant. That was kind of my experience with the Vampires matchup too, is just the fact that feels like there's too many good answers on that side of the thing. Tribunal's a little too clunky. Well, our objective is to go bigger. We can get clunked up on some of those cards. Be on the draw again. From my experience with the mono white aggro deck that this deck is loosely based on, that deck did struggle with. I think this is a keep. The question is, what are we? Probably the Loxodon. Feels like the hardest to cast card in our hand. It's possible this Fervent Champion is supposed to be what goes bye-bye. Opponent didn't attack. That's interesting. I think we're actually a little bit low on... Sure. Grace seems like a pretty good card in this matchup. Okay. Yeah, they really don't want to use a removal spell on that, do they? So I could try to get, like I said, I could try to get in for more damage here, but gotta be careful mildly with a Mortify on this. That's to being if they want to use a removal spell on Fervent Champion. Yep. Looks like that was their last removal spell too. And pretty sure you're dead here, friend. Unless you have like Cry of the Carnarian, there's not too much you can do to get out of this. Do think the unclaimed territories are the incorrect way to build the vampire's mana base, but sure. So we have to do this, do this, and concession. Nice. Felt like a pretty good win, but on to the next match. Back for the third match with Boros Knights in Historic. Can't keep the one-lander. This hand's okay-ish. Probably discard. Put Tribunal to the bottom. One night go. Okay, interesting. Attack for 3 this turn. Actually 4, sorry. Alright, kind of the deck I was afraid of. This is the Breach deck that Mr. Hoogland kind of popularized a little bit. This is basically the Kethis combo deck without Kethis. Yep. Very similar to the deck in Pioneer, at least what it's trying to execute. Different way of doing it, but really? Turn 3, Deterministic Kill. Basically, they're going to mill themselves, and since we can't... Yeah, that deck's just completely... BS that that's legal. So I have nothing targets blue specifically, so they do have some sweepers in their deck, but I don't think we can both play around sweepers and yep, as good as we're going to get in this matchup. Alright. Next turn, if they play Diligent Excavator, we can at least do this and Conclave Tribunal it. Looks like they're going to go with the... Alright. So 3. Don't think this is quite lethal, but one short, and they probably have the storms. Yep. Don't have too many ways to make hasty things, so yep, and we're dead. All right. Yep. It's too much to overcome. Unfortunate run, but that Underworld Breach deck is just kind of unreal. We got turn 3, seems legit, right? So hard to really get too much of a read on the card remains exiled. It's kind of a weird one. But really kind of hard to get too much of a read on that from that. It's possible I shouldn't have played into the sweeper as much. But then again, our opponent wouldn't have gone to 1 there, so like we weren't beating Storm's Wrath plus the combo, and they seem to have Storm's Wrath plus pretty decent follow-up. As we saw, this deck just has issues with 4-mana sweepers, probably 3-mana sweepers as well. So it's a matter of tweaking the sideboard to kind of overcome that a little bit. I think in matchups where your opponent's relying mainly on spot removal, or they just don't have the sweeper, you're in pretty good shape. But yeah, much like playing the mono white aggro deck in standard, the deck just really has issues with dealing with sweepers, and then when you add an absurd turn 3 combo ability on top of that, kind of hard to beat that. So that Underworld Breach combo deck is something certainly to watch in the historic format. Those of you who don't know, basically the combo was Diligent Excavator, or 2 Diligent Excavators, and dueling Mox Opals makes Underworld Breach a deterministic kill, because they mill 4 for every cycling of Mox Opal, and they don't need a bunch of pointless legends in their deck anymore to do that, so makes them kind of even more brutal. And then I think they're Temur based as opposed to 4-color based like they were before, so their mana base gets a little bit better. So the deck was very scary. If you want to know what I'm talking about, go look at Jeff Hoogland's channel. The deck was kind of utterly absurd, and I think our opponent's deck was a variant of that. With that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you for viewing our videos.